So why did you choose real estate? I always thought you could do anything. You're great with people, great people skills. Why real estate?
Okay, that's a great question. Before that, I did tell you you're supposed to introduce this as we're here in Trumbull, Connecticut. Already messing up, I'll tell you right now. That's fine. You can put that in the clip because that's how detail-oriented I am. When I sell your house, I'm detail-oriented. Zoom in, I'm detail-oriented. Go ahead.
We're here today at the home of Luis Sanchez, real estate extraordinaire, Keller Williams agent. What do you like?
I prefer
What do you like?
real estate extraordinaire.
Do you want me to
Let's
say
keep it
Keller
real.
Williams?
I'm not going anywhere. Keller Williams is the best.
So hi, we're here at the home of Luis Sanchez, realtor. Hi, I'm Eric Kahn, Director of Corporate Sales at Total Mortgage, and we're at the home of Luis Sanchez, Keller Williams, real estate broker extraordinaire. Thank you so much for having us. So how did you come up with the tagline, Dream Big?
It's dream big, make it happen. I try hard to be positive and upbeat and, have a positive influence and stuff. And I thought dream big, make it happen definitely fit that. And also, I like nice things, and I always say I'm materialistic, but I'm not in a shallow way. I just have an appreciation for things that are nice. And I thought dream big, make it happen was a great way to have a great excuse later on to have some of the nicer things and kind of say, hey, this is what success can bring you if you work hard and that kind of a thing to, as an example for people, who are on the come up, if you will.
Sure. So what changes have you seen in the real estate business since you began your career 17 years ago?
It's funny because when I started 17 years ago, they were complaining that they had stopped the books, I guess just a few years prior to that. And MLS just went to the HTML format, which was a lot pretty. And all the old timers that have been doing it for years were still typing it looked like a database for a shipping warehouse or something.
But what's MLS? Why don't you explain that? Maybe some people don't even know what that is.
Very good. So years ago, they used to print out books whenever homes hit the market. And they used to drop off the books, or people can go pick up the books from the local association. And that's how they knew what was on the market.
Sure.
And then later on, as technology gets involved, they started putting it all on a system and a database, and people used to pull it up. And again, it was very archaic. Then they went a little fancier and cleaner with the HTML. And so fast forward a little bit further, and that's where like Zillow and all the realtor.com and all these people pull from the same database, the MLS database. But technology changed that totally.
So it seems like you take real estate very personally. Why is that?
I've always been fascinated with real estate. And I grew up in South Norwalk, and I remember riding my bikes all the time through like Darien or Rowayton and looking at these beautiful homes. And I envisioned being out there. I'd look past, their side yard and look at the islands out there. And I just thought, what a beautiful life it was. What it would be like to have money like that and to be successful. And I started in accounting, and I talked too much to be an accountant because we're always it's a call center, right? So we're there, we're working late. They're upset with me because I got one story after another. They're all trying to get home to their families. I'm, young, and I got no one to go home to. And I realized it wasn't a good fit. And I started looking into different things, and I wanted to get into a business that was an agency business. In other words, I wasn't picking up inventory.
Gotcha.
So I wouldn't have that high cost. And as I looked into it, I said, you know what? Like a lot of agents, if I sell this $1.5 million house, here's my calculation, So I resigned from the company. I started selling real estate. And like a lot of people in the beginning, I thought it was as easy as opening doors and all that good stuff. Never sold $1.5 million house. I started selling $35,000 houses and condos and co-ops and stuff. And people started passing the word along. So most of my career, I was doing real cheap stuff, which I didn't mind because you're connecting with people that are just starting out and
sure.
Very much my cup of tea, And then I got a reputation for, even though I was born and raised in Norwalk, I got a reputation for being a Bridgeport agent. So I was making money in volume. And the big mistake I made back then was I didn't have that influence. No one really was there to guide me and say, hey, you know what? This is how you should really look at it. Here's how you should plan. It was very just jump in a car, show a house, try to sell them.
So can you tell us maybe an emotional experience or emotional transaction, maybe something that made you cry even possibly?
In the beginning, when I started selling real estate, money was coming fairly easily, and then things changed fairly quickly. And I remember there's nothing worse than being a young father and not having your money right.
Sure.
And I definitely did not have my money right. Business was down. I wasn't really focusing on it like a business in terms of, seeking listings and, working a database and doing mailings and advertising and all that. And the money that I had, I was blowing. So I did big advertisements because I got sold on the numbers. They said, oh, 150,000 people drive by this, sign every day. And I'm with the calculator all wrong. And I thought I was going to get a ton of calls. I was worried about getting too many calls.
Sure.
And in 2 years, I had 2 calls. So I'm flat broke. I owe money to everybody. My kids are little. I was working with a Central American guy, and all he wanted to do was own a house because that was the American dream. And I just saw how hard that guy worked. And I just saw the love that he had. I mean, I'm getting little chills now. The love that he had for his family, really trying to affect a change for the next generation really was what he was trying to do. And I sold him a multifamily in West Haven. And we went to do the walkthrough. And I go upstairs and he said, Danny, go. This is your house. Just walk through. I went to my car. I cried like a little baby because it just really touched me. And I was also very happy for him because our generation doesn't go for homes or property the way the previous generation. My grandparents immigrated to this country, and people would sleep in basements and they would share apartments and everything until they had the money to buy their first home. Sure. And they didn't even have a lot of these programs, And now we're like 40, 50 years old before some people buy their first home, And I know there's a lot of people that say, oh, don't buy your first home, rent it. I mean, don't buy a home, rent it, only buy investment property. That's like the new thing now. But I don't know. I don't think that that's so smart, to be honest with you,
So statistics say that the average age has increased from 26 to say 34 now for the first-time home buyer. Why do you think people are waiting longer to buy their house?
I think as a society, we've changed so much. I just think everything's different. I know that more people are, my parents and them, they were like 18 to 25, they were getting married. Now people are like 35, 40 years old. Sure. And it might be money related too. Back then, people were working in factories and stuff. If you didn't have a high level education and they were still making money, now, those jobs have gone away, and I think it's harder to buy a home on some of the lower paying jobs. This woman she's from China in Washington. She owns more property than anybody else in Washington, I think is her claim to fame. And she said, if you're a family of 4 and all you can afford is a studio, buy the studio until you can afford the 1 bedroom, then rent out the studio, move to the 1 bedroom. And she
keep working.
Talked about that progression, and we're too proud. No one wants to buy a house unless it's their dream house, which is absolutely nuts. Sure. I'm out with people, they don't realize how much it takes to care for a home, period, let alone 1 on 2 acres or, people don't want to humble themselves and just say, hey, you know what? They rather say they're a renter than say they own something that's smaller or not lavish, in my opinion,
Sure.
Oftentimes.
So when do you think the best time for someone to buy is?
So the best time for somebody to buy a house is when they can.
Okay.
I've always said that.
All right.
Because I think
regardless of their circumstances?
When they can.
Okay.
Yeah, because think about it. What are you waiting for? I just sold. Actually, we'll be closing on a deal in August. I've been with these people for like 3 years, right. And they're buying now what they should have bought, and I try to encourage them to buy 3 years ago.
Sure.
And they're paying more because the market went up a little bit. But in 3 years, they stayed as tenants, renting in a little rental. And especially if you have kids, they have 2 kids they were in high school. Now they're out the house and they're buying a house, wow. Which is a little bit backwards. You know what I mean? Sure. They should have had that house a few years ago when the market was on the incline and they were confident. If they would have proceeded, their kids would have enjoyed living in a single family house as opposed to an apartment,
right. So what are the biggest mistakes today that you see home buyers and sellers making?
There are a couple. I think sometimes they analyze it too much. I find that people are too nervous. They don't want to start the process because they're in their own heads and they're saying all these negative things as to why they can't buy, or if they own, why they can't make a move. I could see why it would be intimidating to a lot of people, and it's a lot of money riding on it, and there's a lot of what ifs out there. But sure. I think if you can partner with the right people, Total's been great to work with and make people feel comfortable. And we call it in sales, bringing them to a safe island, explaining what's going on, let them know what the process is all about. Answer any questions that they have. As long as you kind of explain it and get them comfortable with or prepared with what's going to happen, holding their hand through the process is a little easier because they've already been told and now they're going to take it step by step.
Sure. So what are some of the challenges that you face today as a real estate professional?
This is not an easy job. There's a lot of people that go when they get their license because they think they're going to get a big check. And I think in terms of the hours, in terms of positioning and marketing yourself, so you have challenges in that aspect. You have budgeting challenges because most people don't have their business their real estate career ran like a business. So there's the fluctuations up and down, seasonal, and just sometimes you get on a good flow and then all of a sudden the business slows down sometimes. So, keeping it consistent, all those are challenging. Me personally, and one of the reasons why we're doing more video and trying to connect with people through video is so they can kind of see my personality and hear firsthand who I am and what I'm about. And I've always found it the most difficult to get in front of strangers and prove myself.
Why is that?
Most of my business is through referrals. And I run through families, coworkers, because as much as I love to talk, I'm very private and protective of people's privacy. And I feel I do a good job, and I think people enjoy the process working with me, and they know that I'm the real deal. Growing up without much and being where I am now is so rewarding that I think they realize that I'm genuine and not trying to rush them just to get a check, which is important.
Sure.
And I'm also trying to get them the best deal on both ends. No one's looking at print to buy a house. You can spend a fortune, you can do a full color ad, less than 1/10 of 1%. That's less than 1 in 1,000 who actually see this house or that are looking, qualified buyers see this house are actually going to buy it off an ad. It's a waste of money. Presentation, the photos, accessibility, price. I think price is actually the number one thing. You want to have it where, especially if you're with a strong marketer like I am and that's looking at the details, you want to make sure that you price it properly so people see that it's not overpriced and that it is priced well. And then you position it in by way of marketing it so that people fight over the property, hopefully. Or at least if they go see it, they're not thinking that you're nuts and they're going to lowball your offer. And you see a lot of that. And the strength of an agent actually is important because sometimes sellers will want something. And as a strong agent, you have to be upfront with them and just really be persistent and let them know, like.
What do you consider to be a strong agent, in your opinion?
Knowledgeable, communication, someone who has systems, working with professionals like Total Mortgage in terms of getting them in the right loan product. Who are you as an agent? Where is your heart? How successful are you in negotiating? What's your knowledge of the market? How do you price a home? I think that's the number one thing that they're looking for, that magic bullet. I'm not big on open houses, and I say that, and I almost I'm almost stabbing the industry in the back because a lot of people get great leads from open houses. But I have a list of people I don't want in my house, and I'm sure we all do.
Sure.
But why don't we just put an ad on the paper and encourage people to come at their free will in a 3-hour window to roam through your house? I know people are going to kill me for saying that, but that's how I feel, and I'm very genuine about it. So if a house is vacant, yeah, we'll do open houses. Open houses are really for the agent, they're not for the buyer. The seller. The problem with real estate is that it's not as easy as people think, but to do it well and to do a great job for your clients and to have a real business, a real career, you have to have your hands in a lot of different areas and try to wear a lot of different hats,
What about, so many people today have aspirations of becoming investors. They're attending these seminars, they're paying to get advice. What advice can you give somebody today that wants to be an investor or maybe that currently is an investor?
And I say this wholeheartedly, I have just more than a handful of people that I've worked with and helped them acquire millions of dollars in property.
Okay.
And they all do it in similar ways. Their style may vary. I have one guy that loves condos because he feels like he doesn't have to do anything to them. I have another guy that only does single family because he feels the appreciation, and if you can afford to rent a single family, you generally have good credit and good income. I think it's a matter of taking action and doing what's comfortable for you and putting a good team together. Sometimes people bounce around and I see them getting hurt in the long run because they have no loyalty to either an agent or to a loan officer.
When you say team, can you elaborate on that? What would a team be comprised of?
I had a team of people I used to work with. They were all friends of mine.
Okay.
And they weren't that great at what they did. But my loyalty to them, I always tried to refer them and push them and all that kind of stuff, and it screwed me up. So now I put a team together where the loyalty is strictly to my clients, buyers and sellers. And anybody who works for me is just, in my opinion, the best in the business, that really have pure hearts, their intentions are good, and they have years of experience and they're very knowledgeable. I similar to what I said before about not doing open houses, people would, want to shoot me for saying that. I feel similar when it comes to newer agents. I was a newer agent and I'm thankful for the opportunities that I have, but I think that with experience comes a lot of value.
Sure.
And I would like to see more newer agents work under experienced agents, like in an apprenticeship type of thing, just so they gain experience and they kind of know how to handle certain situations. Besides paying attention to the detail, I think one of the biggest things that we can do as agents for buyers or sellers is be good at negotiating.
Right.
When it comes to negotiating, I really feel great when I win. And for me, winning is like outsmarting the other agent to some degree, really listening to the clues that they're talking about. They'll kind of hint to where the person needs to be, and they'll hint to the motivation, and they'll hint to the problems that they're having. And that kind of information is critical when you're negotiating.
Sure.
And if you're listening to what the person's saying and they showed their hands.
Sure, sure. So you probably worked with some interesting people. Any good stories? Any notable people? Or
John Boyko was my, and if you got to Google John Boyko, Alligator Man.
okay,
He lived in Shelton. And
Okay.
he had 3 alligators. And this guy was talking about his alligators like if he was talking about a dog.
Right,
He
right.
would say, "Oh no, Sally or whatever her name was. She's got the most personality, like an alligator." And he bought a raised ranch down in the Poconos, and he cut out holes and everything else, and they just walk around. I think Pennsylvania has very lenient rules with exotic animals.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
So in our previous conversations, you talked a little bit about these smaller shops, the boutique, agencies. You don't think they'll be able to survive because of the changes in the industry. Can you elaborate on that? Can you tell us a little bit why you have such a strong opinion on that?
Yeah, I think that years ago, real estate was as simple as having a brick and mortar building on the green or somewhere on a busy street, and the way you conducted business was very belly to belly, and buyers and sellers had certain expectations on how you conduct yourself and everything else. And then I think with the introduction of technology, things are just moving so much more faster. I'm with Keller Williams. I don't think anybody gets close to us when it comes to technology. And I love that, by the way, because people use that as their sales point. Agents don't believe that, really. They know that they don't believe that. They like to say it because it feels good.
Do you think it's important to home buyers and sellers?
It is. Well, it is and it isn't. It's so easy to access information now. But what's important is to capture those buyers and sellers. If you're in a boutique situation where you're ABC real estate, what's your offer on the technology side? And a lot of these bolt-on technology opportunities, they're mediocre at best. So to be a boutique office is tough. I think there are some exceptions though, like maybe if you're a Hamptons boutique, real estate office, or if you're specializing in REO properties, that kind of a thing.
Sure.
I think those will survive. But for Luis Sanchez to go back out and do Luis Sanchez real estate again is, I wouldn't compete as well.
If you could change one thing in your career, what would that be?
I probably would have been more serious and more disciplined in the beginning. I've always been one to travel nationally to these real estate events. We've been to some together.
Sure.
And I left there oftentimes saying that wouldn't work in our market. And it does. But we get in our own head, And I thought the market was bad, so I hear everybody complaining in the office, it's a terrible market, you can't make any money. And then I realized that there's deals to be made on both markets, the ups and the downs,
Sure. So one of my experiences with you that I'll probably never forget was how upset you were when we were at Starbucks and they wrote Lewis on your cup.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on the Lewis versus Luis?
So, see, this is the kind of stuff I was trying to get out of you. You know me so well. I was trying to get my whole life. I've always gone by Lou, Louis, Louis. Not Luis. But when I started working in corporate world, everybody was spelling my name wrong, 100% of the time. So that's why I started pronouncing my name Luis. What I represent is very important to me. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing. Another reason why wanted to start doing videos so people can get an idea of who I am as a person and really figure me out and know before we even meet sometimes if they want to work with somebody like me.
Sure.
I'm very grateful. You hear me all the time say I live an amazing life, and I really do.
Sure.
And I want to be a positive influence to people. And so when I say Luis, I want some of the Hispanic kids to feel like they can still work and do well and have nice things and get ahead. If it's just a little influence or if I just influence a few people, that's important to me.
Sure. So you've got 17 years under your belt now with real estate. How many more years do you have left in you?
I'm never going to retire.
Never.
Never. Who wants to sit on a dirty old beach?
A lot of
smelling
people.
like suntan lotion. A lot of people. Not me. Not me. I want to stay active. I want to stay mobile. I would like to, I was involved with Bridgeport Neighborhood Trust for a lot of years.
Sure.
I would like to find another organization similar to that. And as I get older, maybe play more of a role and having an impact on the community and changing lives. People don't realize how important it is to buy the house that you live in. you know. And I'm not going to say I was always perfect. I bought my first house at 21. I was super proud of it, and it absolutely changed where I am in so many ways here, 20 something years later. That sense of pride, the forced savings component of it, building equity, understanding your credit, all that stuff, it can change a whole generation. You know what I mean? And we need to get back to that. I'm not saying that just so I can sell you the house. It's important to get back to that. And it's not that hard, right? I mean, we when you do it, it's not that hard. And I'm glad that I bought before, so I feel what buyers and sellers feel.
How was the experience when you bought this house, just out of curiosity?
Well, I had trouble with my loan officer.
You should have came to Total Mortgage.
I did. I had so many things going on. I was nervous about buying. And I remember you saying, let me just
Take a look.
Let me take a look. Just take a look. See what you need in order to get where you need to go.
Sure. Well, Luis, I appreciate Luis. I appreciate you having us here.
You can call me Mr. Sanchez.
Mr. Sanchez, I appreciate you having us here in your home and sharing with us and the audience. And it was great insight for me, and I hope everybody got a great value out of this.
I agree. I appreciate you guys coming over. It's important for me. Like I told you, I want to try to get in the faces of people, let them see my personality a little bit better, and communicate in more than just little quips. So thank you for playing a role in that.
Thank you.